would suddenly feel, and know once again that what I feel is real. I would cry, I would smile, I might lay back for a while. Tell me what would I do if I could feel? What would I do if I could clearly see and know what I see isn't fooling me? And we maybe a while we might make each other smile, and we notice how we could grin if we trusted once again. And if the tear came to my eyes, think of all the wounds they meant, and just to think of all the times I'd be vulnerable again. Tell me what would I do if I could feel? What would I do if I could look inside of me and know how it feels to say I like what I see, and I'd be glad, so glad to share all that I have inside of here, and the song my heart might sing, you'd be more than glad to sing. And if a tear came to my eyes, of all the wounds they meant, and just to think of all the times I'd be vulnerable again. Tell me what would I do? Tell me what would I do? Tell me what would I do if I could feel? If I could feel? If I could feel? If I could really, really feel? If I could feel? And take your suffering as my own. If I could feel? And giving you all of my joy. In your darkest hour, I'd be near. If I could feel? If I could really, really feel? If I could feel? Your suffering as my own. And giving you all of my joy. In your darkest hour, I'd be near. If I could feel, really feel. If I could feel, if I could really, really feel. If I could feel, if I could really, really feel. If I could feel, if I could, if I could, if I could feel. If I could feel. If I could feel. If I could feel.
darkness don't let you sleep, when the cold winds blow, when space is all you need, you can just let go. If the spark in your eye goes out, truth will be your glow, bringing you home, yeah, bringing you home. I see your hurt, I feel your pain, this is our work, breaking the chains. We've walked that road, we felt that pain. No place is home, but times they are changing.
This is our sanctuary, you can find shelter and peace. This is our sanctuary, you are safe with me. This is our sanctuary, you can find shelter and peace. This is our sanctuary, you are safe with me.
When the rain starts to take its toll, it can wear you down. We all know that the world's turned cold. We need kindness now, keep holding on.
Hold on to truth, hold on.
You'll see my hurt, I feel your pain. This is our work, breaking the chains. We walked that road, we felt that shame. No place is home, but times they are changing.
This is our sanctuary, you can find shelter and peace. This is our sanctuary, you are safe with me. This is our sanctuary, you can find shelter and peace. This is our sanctuary, you are safe with me. Yeah, yeah,
You are safe with me.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
We share the hurt, we share the pain. This is our work, breaking the chains. We walked that road, we felt that same. Times they are changing.
Our sanctuary,
Oh,
safe with me. Our sanctuary, safe with me. This is our sanctuary, you can find shelter and peace. This is our sanctuary, you are safe with me. This is our sanctuary, you can find shelter and peace. This is our sanctuary, you are safe with me. Yeah, yeah,
you are safe with me.
yeah, yeah,
You are safe with me.
yeah, yeah,
You are safe with me.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Safe with me.
yeah, yeah,
Safe with me.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Safe with me. Safe with me.
I just want to make sure that we were not forgetful hearers. This section of imparting that we're discussing right now it's critical for us to have accomplishment, and we understand about the sixth sense consciousnesses and the sixth sense bases, right? So we don't have to go through those, like the faculties through which the mind connects with what we see, hear, taste, touch, smell, and think. So we can go past those, right? So I want to review then the seventh consciousness and the eighth consciousness. The seventh consciousness is called Manas consciousness, and that it performs the function of thinking. The eighth consciousness, the Alaya consciousness, is that which gathers and stores all of the seeds, all the dharmas, all the defiled and undefiled causes. So sometimes something flares up in us that's not even in our mind to do. You know, have you ever done something and then you just wonder what possessed you? What made you do that thing? You know, like that's not. I had an opportunity yesterday to practice and I failed miserably. So I was on Zazi's call yesterday, and there's hardly a time that I can get on the call that me and Faisong don't get into it, you know, and so afterwards I was, you know, I got these calls, and the calls were like, thank you for speaking up, thank you for, because he's oh, I already called his name. I'm so sorry. Thank you for speaking up, because I mean it's just his way. I mean he's a great guy. I actually love him. He's my brother. And after we have it, it's like siblings who fight, you know. But you know the personalities of each one. He knows my personality. He knows how to push my button. His buttons are always pushed, and so I mean, like if it didn't come out of his mind, then it's like there's nothing to think about and ponder to expand, you know. And so, so we had our usual run in, and afterwards, he wrote me an email. That's the first time he's written email. He's like mad, don't talk to you for months, right? But this time he wrote me an email. I was so happy that he wrote me an email, because maybe if we couldn't talk face to face, we could commit it to writing, you know, and we could get back on the same page. So I responded to his email. He sent me an email back. I was just informing you. Don't think I'm going to read your response. You know, so like all my good intention, you know, and like it left the building. And I said, I know this is a test, right, Buddha Master? This is where you got to practice what you read. And I already profusely apologized to Zazi, you know, because as soon as he said something, she said, no, that's not right. And he lit right in, you know. And I'm like, no, he's not going to do this. He's not going to do this. And so then I get all of these calls, and these calls were thank you, because he's a bully, and this happens all the time if you're not on the line. But if you're on, you know, you stand up to him. And I said, you know, it's not like I'm standing up to him. My anger is directed towards, you know, that energy. It's an I'm so sorry I called his name. Just forget the name, you know. Yeah, I said John. So it wasn't John I was warring against, you know, and that's the whole thing. But of course John took it personally, the same way I took it personally when he wrote me. And then I write him back and he said, you know, I'm not going to read what you wrote, you know. And then he sent me 7 more emails, you know. So I'm like, I should put the bounce on here so he knows I'm bouncing on. I'm not reading what he wrote back. But I did read each one. And each one was to buckle down. Mine was very, you know, a reconciliatory, if that's the right word. I was trying to reconcile. I said, you know, we both got it's not the representation that I want to make. You know, I really am working on my patience with you. I'm working on my patience, and I was just telling them, you know, we have these, but we still love each other, and maybe both of us should just listen, or if we recognize that the other one can't hear, somebody stops talking, you know, and I regret that I didn't do that, because it wearies Zizi. It was like somebody pulled the plug. All of the energy goes out of her. She has no problems jumping on me and fussing with me, but it seems like with John, and so she just seemed so weary, so tired, just all of a sudden. And so I regretted it because he's not my student. He's not for me to correct, And I really wasn't correcting him. I just didn't want the session to end with his mindset because it wasn't a right mindset. And so sometimes these seeds get watered and they come up. And it's one thing I've been working on. I don't know what's going on inside of you. I only know what's going on inside of me. So I'm constantly looking for my faults. I'm looking for where I'm not walking in my own vow. I'm looking, and like that's a minute by minute job because the thoughts we have hundreds of thousands of thoughts every day. I forget the number. It's an astronomical number of thoughts that the psychologists and psychiatrists and the people who work with the mind tell us, flow through our circuitry. It's a wonder we can get anything done. That's a miracle in itself that we can even bring two thoughts together that take us a little further on the path to purification. And so whenever we even do a little bit that is praiseworthy, not proud-worthy, but just praiseworthy, we should see it and recognize it, and we should hold on to it because we're beating the odds, is what I can say. We're beating the odds. And so it takes conscientious effort to be able to do that. It also takes discipline to be able to do it. I thought I was pretty disciplined, but in retrospect, maybe I wasn't because, or if in part of your discipline has to be to see when anything you say is gonna, be fruitless. It's not gonna bear fruit. Then it's no point in saying. It's no point in saying it, And I knew almost right off the bat that there was going to be a rebuttal because I've never ever I met him in 2006, I think. I've never ever heard him say, "I'll think about that. Thank you for sharing. Oh, I see your point." Just never. It's just buckle down, And so I already knew that, and I should have left it alone. Yeah.
I heard it, and I want to say that in spite of all of the energy and emotion, the comments that you made were extremely useful, pertinent, important, and helped me to understand in a way I had not before.
Mm.
So aside from all the emotionality, what you said was very appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I mean, like I knew that it was, but when and I because I didn't want people to go away with a wrong understanding, and I waited for Zazie to uh, share, but she didn't want to get into a thing with him, so I kind of took that up. But at the end of the day, I wish I'd had still more skill, maybe redirecting it to a general comment rather than a rebuff, And so I'm gonna work on that. The thing is that once I hung up, for the rest of the day, I could not get I couldn't get back on my good foot. It just kept coming up for me. One more thing, and one more thing. So now it has left the topic, you see, and now my thoughts are on him. That's a problem. And so I was upset about it. I said, why can't I let this go? I mean, it's not like it's an ordinary thing to confront wrong view, you know? So why is this particular thing just hanging around and hanging around and hanging around? And I couldn't. So what I did, I'll just tell you, I put on, what's the name of our album? I put on Invocation, and I just Kay had gone to the store. So like, you know, she's from the old school, you walk softly and everything in its place, and I'm like entirely different. So I don't get a great opportunity to just let it all hang out, except when she's gone grocery shopping or for a walk or something like that. So she was gone, and uh, I just turned it on, blasted it throughout the whole house, singing at the top of my voice, and that was, and it shifted, you know. It just took me to another state. You know, it's not always how good the singing is, you know, but, and this is the thing about sharing our talents and sharing our gifts. It's what state you're in, you know. And that's where you propel people. You propel people to the state that you're in. So, and that's not just for singing. It's not just for art. It's when you're making things, creating things, when you're doing things, when you're interacting. It's the state in which it's the state you're in as you execute throughout the day that determines the value of the effort, because it has to get beyond your effort. You see, it has for its expansiveness and for it has to be outside of the realm of our effort, outside the realm of what I give. So part of the problem, this was so clear to me yesterday, was part of the problem was in the beginning, I was speaking just for clarification around dharmic matters, but somewhere in there, it turned a little bit personal. And I think it's when he clicked on, you know how somebody talks and everybody's muted, you know, and when he talked, we were all muted. When I was talking, he clicked on, and I said, no, right now you don't speak. I'm speaking, you know, and told him to click. So right there is where it turned personal. I'm just explaining so that you'll see it in yourself and you'll know where the lines are. And so right there it got personal for me. And so, and then it became something that I wanted to say, something I wanted to clarify. And yeah, and I wish I had just stopped a few seconds before that and left it, because I actually left it at a place where Zazie was picking it up and said, "You're absolutely right, Pannavati." But she couldn't tamp down his voice, and I could, sort of. And so that's it. So I yes, I do know you were on, and I regret there's different kinds of strength, and sometimes you have to have the strength to overlook a slight, and to also tolerate a fault. And that can be just as important because of all of us in that class. I think he seems to share the most misunderstanding, and so maybe he's the greater one that needs the compassion and the kind and a kind way that doesn't make him feel so defensive. And I wanted him to know how I really feel about him. And that's what I was trying to share in my letter. Now, I think he read it. I think he read it, but sometimes you can't, to save face, you can't say anything. You buckle down even harder. Sometimes the conversation or the disagreement actually starts to, we get to points of agreement. But because we started with disagreement, you can't even acknowledge the points of agreement because it sounds like now I'm giving in to you if I agree with you on something. And so we'll just maintain that, um, that position that I'm in opposition when I'm really no longer in opposition. But I don't want to look like I caved. I mean, I wasn't disagreeing, and then he sent me. Do you understand the word misunderstood? Because you misunderstood me. Um, so then I said, and he wrote what he was trying to say, or what he was alluding to, that Buddha Master said, and I said, this passage and what you said are entirely different. That's why I misunderstood you. What this is saying, which is something that Buddha Master said, is absolutely, absolutely right. But these are dots that have to be connected, and they're connected through the fluidity of understanding. And if you don't, they just become bullet points and bully clubs to beat somebody with. But when you can connect the dots, I just keep seeing this swirl like water. Like when you look at water, you don't see drops of water. It's all connected with a certain kind of flow that creates a stream of motion that is it's very smooth. It's where if we stick on the bullet points, it becomes very choppy and very pointed, and maybe the person can't connect the dots. You have to have the kind of fluidity that can connect the dots so that it is easy to be entreated. It can be understood. It can be used. It serves a purpose of usefulness in people's lives. And so that's what this is talking about, and why it's separating kinds of consciousness, like the mind king consciousness from the sense-based consciousness, and then and it's like one that is behind and undergirds the other. But you have to penetrate one to get to the other, or you have to have some understanding of the relationship between thoughts and actions, and bit by bit it stops being points. You can put it all together one day. You wake up and then you understand something in a certain way, not just know points, but you understand something, and that allows you to change to change your action, to shift your action, or it lets you know when you messed up. It lets you know when you weren't your best. And then you have to figure out what you're going to do about that, how you restore peace and how you restore harmony. So for me, I have to let him sit for a while, But I could tell you that after just listening to invocation, it lifted me it helped me remember who I am, and be beyond the five aggregates, that there is something behind that, and that whatever is behind that comes into manifestation as long as I operate in the laws that govern that. And that's why we have vows, and that's why we have precepts, and that's why we have practices, because those are the things, and that's why we have to exercise, why we have contemplative illumination, why we have to think about the tenets of that we hold on to, so that they can arrest activity that is born out of our false identity. based on what we see, hear, or taste, touch, smell, or think. Um, and and in time, as we continue to do that, even though it may not feel good, it feels good to me to be able to find a stop point. It feels good even when I mess up to be able to go back and look at it and see it. And that's like so much clothing. I can take that off. So I don't have to carry it around with me. I don't have to go around flagellating myself. I don't have to go around thinking bad about myself. I don't have to, I can like, oh, just sitting with that and the repercussion of it, how it made me feel, how it made him feel, how how it was in a way disruptive. I mean, if you can't do it good, don't do it, and just thinking about all of that. So I'm gonna be on next week, but I ain't talking next week. But she likes for me to come on,
Because you talk.
Yeah.
yeah,
If I was there, I would have the same experience.
yeah.
Talking stick like in elementary school.
Well, everybody plays by the rules, except one person. Just respectful, you know what I mean? And if you get too disrespectful, you start having a child fit, then I'm gonna treat you like a child. And I know I came up in a different generation. We believed that if we beat them, we wouldn't kill them. And so I'd rather beat mine so they can get out on the street and somebody that doesn't love them beats them. So I taught them manners so that they know how to carry themselves out in the street. That's why I don't have any problems with my children. None. None whatsoever. Um, I mean, they came out to be really good, really respectful. Know when to hold them, and know when to fold them. All of that, and I didn't have to do it too many times. Just once for my daughter, and a couple of times for my son because he was bigger than me. But they have a certain kind of of respect that was born from training. So we have to have spiritual training too. We have to allow the Dharma to correct us. And then when it corrects us, instead of being upset with it, and I don't believe that. I don't want to hold to that. He says, put it into practice and see. And then you can make a judgment whether it's for you. But if you won't take it up and put it into practice, then you don't know that it works. You don't know its power to transform you. And it'll help you hold your ups and your downs. It'll help you not be too arrogant and too proud, when you do good. And it'll help you just not utterly condemn yourself when you do not good. You can condemn the self, but that's not me. I am not this. That is not myself. And so this whole way of changing our basis for our identity, who we are, is so important. It is the fundamental thing. It's the foundational thing. I read something that if you look through Buddha Master's teaching, it's all about emptiness. The whole thing is about the emptiness of the five aggregates, because all we've talked about are the five aggregates. It's just like when they told me that I used to long time ago, and I don't do it now. I'm not commenting on it, good or bad. I'm just letting you know I don't do it now. But I used to be a hypnotherapist to help people stop smoking and stop drinking and stuff like that, or working with addictive behaviors through neurolinguistic programming and hypnotherapy. And the only reason that I don't now is because I think that people need to solve their own problems, and with the correct pointing to who they are, they can do that. So I don't do those that kind of work anymore. I got called to Dharma work. But but when I was doing it, you know, it was with the idea that my job was to not to take over their mind, but to help them use their mind in a more powerful way, you know. And that's what this Dharma does. But it goes so far that it takes us beyond that seventh consciousness, not just the sixth consciousness where we're thinking, you know, about things consciously, but the seventh consciousness where um, uh, it performs a function that establishes our views. Like it establishes, I might see something, and the sixth consciousness helps tell me what I see, but I establish my view of what that is and what it means and how it impacts me and my life and others through the seventh consciousness. And that's when those seeds are rising up and they're influencing how I interpret, you know, what I see and what I hear and how I understand it. And some of those seeds are good seeds, and some of those seeds are not good seeds. Not only that, there's a reciprocal relationship because how I'm acting out is influencing which seeds will grow, which ones I'm giving attention to unknowingly, which it's nurturing and causing them to pop up. And also they are influencing how I handle this situation. And so if we could keep that in mind, if I could have had that in mind, and that's why I wanted that song, What Would I Do If I Could Suddenly Feel? You know, if I could have felt into him in a deeper way beyond just the correcting the Dharma, if I'd had more skill, it possibly could have been a better outcome. If not a better outcome for him, it certainly could have been a better outcome for me because I suffered half the day, you know, over my own unwholesomeness, my own mind being upset, you know. And so that's why he breaks this down like that. But after it's all broken down to help us understand, we got to put it all back together and figure out how to use it in a living way in our lives. And it's mostly because we use it to think about others, to think about, oh, that's what's wrong with him. Oh, I see his problems. Oh, instead of turning that light, he said, turn the light inward and see your own problem. And if we don't, we will be, you know how people are like goody two shoes, but they're really fake. You know, they're like so heavenly minded that they know earthly good. They're you know, they have this harmless kind of persona, but it's really laziness. You know, they don't want to do anything. And won't put forth the effort that's needed to do their fair share, to join together to make something come out like it should. It's just slacking back. But you think like they're so amenable, they're so, you know, but it's not that. It's just being too lazy to put forth effort to do your fair share because it's going to require something of you, you know. And so we have to be careful that we don't slip into those kinds of behaviors. Now, that's not one I really have to work on, but some of you in here might have to work on that. You know, I'm working on the other end, but you need to know what end you need to work on so that the right amount of effort is given, the right so that the intrinsic reality prajna can emerge. It takes the right balance. Can't be too hot or too cold. Can't be too docile or too forceful. You can't be, and so we have to look and see, ask ourselves where we are in this mix. And when we do, that is doing our first aspect of Dharma work. It's not the whole thing, but that's the first aspect. So he says that when you do that, you can touch a point where your mind feels it's perfect, it's pure, it's boundless. It's no place that it lands. It doesn't land on the other person. It doesn't land on you. It's nowhere that the mind lands. And to have that experience of it, it takes away all of the stress in life, in interactions. It takes care of all of the stress in life over the 8 worldly winds, gain or loss. It moves you not in, it's beyond neutral. Like if you put the car in neutral, except, what's that car? I told them they should give me one. I talked about it so much. I don't talk about it so much now, though. A Tesla that when you get to the corner and it stops and it powers down, and it's like you can't even tell it's on. You can't tell it's running. The light turns green, you put your foot on the gas and the car goes. But maybe it was a Tesla. Was it a Tesla? Yeah, but when they first came out about 10 years ago, I was like so excited. I still don't have one, that's why I don't know. But I was in somebody's car and they're driving, and you hit a car, and then they go to the stop sign and a red light, and the car just powers down, and it's like it's not even running, And I'm thinking, oh, that car went off. The motor set off. I'm old school, and then the light turns green, and then touch the gas, and it just takes right off. I said, this is fantastic, But that's how we should be in those moments. Action should be spontaneous when something has to be done. And then we just power down. Just power down. That's all. If it's not happening right now, no need, there is no activity required. Just powering down. But powering down doesn't mean off. It's poised and ready. It's surveying the land. It is looking. There's a dynamic aspect of it that is always ready for use, always ready. And it's almost as if you're there waiting for it, because you're limitless in your aspiration, just being limitless in your aspiration. And it can be over a big thing, and it can be over a small thing. He says that our original nature is no different than that of a Buddha. And so I'm always checking to see if that action was the action of a Buddha that came from a Buddhic monk. And he says, why are you not Buddhas? Simply because you are attached to all the characteristics of phenomena in the world. You use your 6 sense bases, and your 5 aggregates are attached to forms, taking them to be real, and so you regard the false as what is true. You regard the false as the real. Now, I think I say that every time we gather, every single time, but how many of us have actually stepped into really an acceptance of that? Attached to the character, well, some of us just admit we're attached to all of the characteristics of phenomena in the world. We're attached to our things. I mean, some of us just admit, like, and I like my things, but it doesn't mean that if you can like them without being attached to them, then it's fine. If you can't like them without being attached to them, you have to work on abandoning them. To cultivate a mind of impermanence, because that's the first step, cultivating a mind of impermanence. So as much as we would like to have more and more and more and more and more teachings, where are we in the mastery of the first? It might take us, almost our whole life. I say almost, not our whole life, but almost our whole life, hopefully, to just cultivate that, a mind of impermanence. Because it takes that motivation for one to really want to get out of the rounds of samsara. And it doesn't mean that if you don't, that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that at all. It just means that you get another shot at it, except you don't know when that'll be. And except you don't know what other seeds are ripening. And so the whole purpose, truly, really, of Buddhism is not for stress relief. It's not to be a nice person. You have to already sort of like have a desire to be a nice person to even be interested in this. Otherwise, what's because it doesn't seem to like offer you anything that's going to particularly benefit you in the ways that the world thinks of benefit. So I mean, like, so why would you be here? Because we talk about giving up things, taking up things. Like, why would I want to do that? So you have to have reach the place where you can realize that that money can't buy you love, and that things only provide a certain amount of momentary happiness, of people too. And there has to be some, I won't say disillusionment, but one can see that there is something missing. Could there be more to life than this? Than getting up every day, eating, peeing, working, fussing, grasping. Is there more to life than this? And then you start searching for what it is. And we start searching out here, looking out here. I mean, because we think it's something out here that gives us that. But what the Dharma says that it's not there's nothing out here that can give you that. So you have to turn the light, the spotlight, inward. And when you do that, it can be difficult to really see yourself. It can be difficult. It's not always the pretty picture. It can be difficult to figure out how to turn that around. And he says, don't worry about turning it around. Just do these things and it will turn around. But sometimes we give up too soon. Before we finish doing the work, before we finish making the preparation, we get so excited about our turning that now we run off and we apply those same worldly attributes. Oh, so now I'm going to be this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to, and we're off and running and we've gotten back to the I just on a different level, but it's still on the I. When you really get it, you almost have to be pushed to do something because your humility is so strong because the abandonment of the sense of self. And then something really, really pure can flow. Not how good a teacher I am, how good of a singer I am, how good of a healer I am, how good of a musician I am, how good of a photographer I am, how good of a crafts maker I am, how good of an inventor I am. The I am is the part. But when we're really getting it, there is no thought I am doing. And there's not even a lot of preparation. I want to tell you, we were working on this song on Wednesday, and it was sad. We were in a sad state. We were like, we don't know if we can do this. I don't know what was wrong with it, but everything was wrong with it, you know. And we got back this morning to try to rehearse again. Same thing. We're like, oh, Lordy. You know, because you should offer your best or don't offer it. Even if it turns out not to be your best, if it really, if you thought it was your best, you know, then you offer it and get better. But we like knew this was like messed up. It was, and then Michael got here a little early, and like we were like, so Michael, we don't know our parts, you know, and he just sits down, shoulder strap still on, and just starts striking some chords. And as soon as he strikes a chord, everybody knows their part, you know. And we were working from a tape which still had all the parts. I mean, you know, still had the music. So what was the difference? But he brought something to us, is what I'm saying. You see, and having a certain state, that's not a contrived state. It's not a thought up thing, you know. It is just it's in you, and it operates automatically. And when he struck the chords, everybody knew, except for me, I don't know. Everybody knew their parts. And I tried not to sing because I used to sing the lead, and I can't sing it anymore. And I just love it. And so my head was someplace else. I think maybe one line I sang. Sorry about that, Sante. But just because of my joy, that song gives me a lot of joy because I'm always asking myself those questions that came from the Wiz. But if you've ever heard that song, you know it's not that song. We wrote that as a dharmic song. It's how we go in and reflect, you know, upon ourselves. And it was very moving. And it was moving for me because I had just just gone through something, you know, where I didn't bring forth my best, and I could do better than that. And so he talks to us about the only reason why our Buddha nature doesn't fully manifest is because we are still attached to the characteristics of the phenomena in the world, that we're attached to forms. And what's false about them, you know, when he says it's false, it doesn't mean those things are not there. Doesn't mean things aren't happening. Doesn't mean this podium is not here or that I'm not sitting here talking to you. It just simply means that this moment has come together through various causes that have created this condition. And when the things that hold them together, like, for instance, 130 might get here. When 130 gets here and I end, there's a dissolution of this, you know? And so this Sangha will fall apart and everybody will be individually going their own way. It could be because I didn't show up. If I didn't show up, then we wouldn't have the Sangha meet necessarily, you know, or it could be if Michael didn't show up, we wouldn't have had the song. So when he speaks of false, it doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means it's happening because certain conditions have come together to allow this moment to present in this way. That's what false means. So everybody's clear on what false appearances are. That means that they come together temporarily based on causes to create a condition, and that is what's impermanent, and that and that's constantly coming together and falling apart. So you could say it's coming into creation, and creates something living, and then it dies away. And that at any time we can interject something that changes that. And so I took yesterday a false appearance as real. And instead of recognizing, first and foremost, yes, we were having an argument, but first and foremost, if I had been cognizant of the logic of causality, not today when I can talk about it, but then in the moment when I was experiencing something, then I could have responded differently, you know. So he says the mind is not located in your heart, because when we try to get away from the head, where do we go? We go to the heart. We even like feel it right here. We like feel it. But he says the mind is not located inside your heart, nor is it located outside your heart. It's not located somewhere between inside and outside of your heart. It's not within your skin. It's not anywhere in between. The mind is shapeless and formless. And the minute we reduce it to like the heart mind, then we're capturing it in a space that is not boundless. It's a space that is contained, and it pulls on our own personal strings. You know, there's some people, they really feel a heart for a particular cause. And a lot of times it's because of something they have encountered in their life. Like if I was homeless, I have, you know, a little soft spot in my heart for homeless people. If I was an alcoholic, I have a soft spot maybe for alcoholics. If I was the victim of an alcoholic, I might have an opposite reaction towards alcoholics. You know, but there's usually some kind of connection tied into the aggregates that give us sympathy for those conditions. Yeah. And so in this way, in that sympathy being the forward thought movement, I act. But when I act out of sympathy, that's a choice. That's a choice. It's not the same thing as spontaneous, unattached compassion. So those of us who have gotten very good, you know, and he starts at the beginning, you develop some sympathy, you know, some connection, some empathy, you know, but you got to take it further than that. That's what I'm saying. For it to be vast and boundless, we have to get out of ourselves even around that. And there is a space of knowing that can arise that instructs us or allows us to perceive exactly what should be done, regardless of how we think about it and regardless of how we feel about it. But this comes step by step in our cultivation and in our practice until we enter a state that reveals that to us, not a habit. It's a state, not a habit. So the mind is shapeless and it's formless. It has no amount of density. Thus, you cannot regard the heart of the flesh as the mind. You cannot say that our heart of flesh is mine. Now I did heart math about 15 years ago or 20 years ago when it first came out, long time. Like a lot of these things, they're on their second win. It's just like, oh, these new things, these not new things, these things we did when we were in our 20s, So some of us 40, 50 years old, and they're just circulating back around, and I got a lot of benefit from that system. I got a lot of benefit from that path. But this learning, this wisdom is it's not like a circle, it's like a slinky. So you might be going round and round, but every round going higher and higher, But when we see that connection, we just slot right in to where we were, and we just keep going round and round instead of going higher and higher. And this is where change of states comes in. It says, although the sixth consciousness has thought, any movement of thought is descent into the impermanence of differentiation and affliction connected with the aggregates and connected with samsara. So the sixth consciousness has thought, but any movement of it brings us down into a descent. It moves the thought on a human level takes us, because we devolve into substance around it. You have to listen carefully and then ponder these things. Like whenever we're trying to fix a problem, how do we know we fixed it? There is some, what? How do you know when you've taken care of something? You've done something. There is some kind of concretizing, shoring up of something, fixing something, and so it creates a greater descent, if you can see it, into this constructed world that's going to do what? That situation is not going to last. It's not going to last. It's not going to remain. So we're actually going this way in trying to shore up something when we're problem solving from our ordinary mind space. We're just exchanging one temporary solution for another temporary solution, because our function of thinking is tied in to the five aggregates and our attachment to the five aggregates, our attachment to a particular outcome, our attachment to an end result, our attachment to a particular goal. And so we've just set ourselves up for. I have someone who needed our help financially, and we're helping, but no amount that we gave before what we're going to give today. I was just waiting to see Lucida's eyes. Would have helped, because he wanted it for a particular thing that, it just won't be sustainable. But he couldn't see it because he's in it. But we could see it because we weren't in it, And so, but now he got a job. Then he reports to work tomorrow. But he's a tradesman, he's got to have work boots. Now that's something I can get behind. He's got to have work boots and a tank of gas to get to his job in Arden for the whole week, and he gets paid weekly. So he gets paid at the end of this week. Now I can see something that I can get behind. But money for food, he could go to IMS, they do that. He could go and eat at the shelter, they do that. Money for a hotel, no, because he can go to the shelter, they do that, you know. And so it's sometimes we want to help, but it's not always what we want to do. But when the sympathy pulls on us, because I know what it is to be homeless, to be on the street, or I know what it is, then we want to help in particular ways. But this is something that comes up that allows us to move with it without any thought about it. There's a wisdom that arises with it that allows something to be regarded and something to be overcome. So he says, with movement of thought, we immediately descend into differentiation connected with the five aggregates. Therefore, you must not have movement of thought. You must not have thoughts. As soon as you have thoughts, no matter what the thoughts may be, you immediately are equal to an ordinary person or one of those common or average people. If you regard mind consciousness as the mind, this is no different from regarding a thief as your own child. If you regard mind consciousness as mind, this is taking a bandit as your own child and family member. If you want to end your cycle of birth and death, you must let go of the differentiating and deluded mind of the sixth consciousness. That's the differentiating mind, the mind of delusive thoughts. You must rely on contemplative illumination prajna, using the principles of language prajna to generate the utilization of contemplative illumination, illuminating the emptiness of the mind, getting rid of delusive thoughts, and then you can achieve the unborn, the imperishable true mind, and can naturally remove karmic obstacles, such that all is perfectly clear. Now, sometimes right after we understand this, we start to look at our lives and say, geez, this whole thing is a mess. You know, I mean, like it's just a mess. It was looking pretty good a week ago. You know, what the hell happened? You know, and so you'll see the things that we have constructed begin to deconstruct. Then we get all upset and thinking about like how to fix it, you know, instead of letting it deconstruct naturally, not through thinking and forcing something else, you know, but just by when things are falling apart and you know, and maybe you know that you've done everything that you know to do in the best way that you know how, or that it was a good thing. I was thinking about how I had a good run in my marriage, 28, my third husband, 28 years. The first two were trial runs. But when I got to the third one, I was like, this was it, you know, and I had certain criteria, you know. He had to be able to sing, because I liked a man to sing to me. He had to, that was really the first one. First interview, can you sing? And the second was, he had to be gentlemanly, like opening the car door for me. And not me telling him, he had to do that, you know. He had to also like take out my trash and put gas in the car. You know, things that I don't want to do. And I wanted to see you know, if he could do that, I could pretty much go with the rest of it. My requirements weren't really high. There were just a few things like that. I had to be ambitious because I like to traipse off in my spiritual things, so somebody had to pay the bills. And so I had all of my criteria, but I've been reflecting recently, and the conclusion that I came to was, although I was married for 28 years, I don't know what I really had. I really don't. It's like my 28 years came and went. I now see the impermanence of it. I see the impermanence of those 28 years, and all I can say is, like, we didn't hardly fight. He was a good man. I was good to him. I guess that's it. I really can't put together what happened in those 28 years, except for I lost 30 years of my life it was okay, And so I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking about the fervency of the experience of married life. And don't ask me for advice, because I can tell you right now, I don't have a clue, because those 30 years went like that. They just went like zip, because it was all pretty good. And when I got bored, I'd start a fight, because making up is good, And so what I'm saying is, we go through life living things, living in a certain way that we're just really living in our minds. We're not really living. We're not really present, because we like a certain kind of comfort, a certain kind of pleasantness, and there can be hardly any liveliness. And it's not the same thing that, against Jay, my husband. I'm talking about me now. I'm just looking at me, the sum total of my life, now that I'm at the end of it. And I was thinking, dang, I should only stay married to him for 5 years. 5 years of goodness was enough, so I could try something else, because I feel like I lived my whole life and missed out on something. But everybody says, oh, great, successful marriage, I'm like, yeah, it was, yeah. But I know me better now. And I know the kinds of fire that's still blazing, I either was an asura or I'm on my way to being one. Look them up, they're fierce. But because I feel a fierceness in me that's unrequited, I'm really finding my space, and I'm finding it before I die, so that I don't have to. I want all them seeds out, Now, I'm not saying that I'm now interested in looking for a relationship. I'm talking about knowing one's own mind is what I'm talking about, and living authentically and being who you are, rather than having a face for the world and feeling like you have to live up to that, because you don't. And if you do that, when you start engaging into spiritual things, you'll bring that same kind of quality to your spiritual life, and you'll just kind of go through the motions. Yeah, you'll just kind of go through the motions, but you'll never come to really, really know yourself and uproot all of these seeds of attachment. So I can say that I have. I'm in a hurry now. I'm in a hurry, because I don't know how much time I have left. Just age-wise, not because I'm so sick, but just just age-wise. He says, if you want to end your cycle of birth and death, you must let go of the differentiating and deluded mind of the sixth consciousness that's tied to your sense gates. You must also let go of the differentiating mind of delusive thoughts. You must rely on contemplative illumination prajna, using the principles. And this doesn't necessarily mean you have to act out everything that comes to your mind, but it's like releasing the seeds that are embedded, that are stored, you know, in the Alaya consciousness. And it says, after you illuminate and see the empty nature, your empty nature, you can attain the true mind that did not arise and will not perish. And only then can you remove karmic hindrances to be in perfect clarity. Only after you illuminate this emptiness can you attain the true mind that did not arise and will not perish. And only then can you remove the karmic hindrances and be in perfect clarity. And at that time, you will know that this mind is neither internal nor external, neither comes nor goes. There are multiple names for this mind, such as the true mind of the Tathagata Garbha and the marvelous mind of Nirvana. All of these many names are just figures of speech. In fact, there's no name that can be given to it. Even these many names are also false figures of speech. Whether the name is mind, original nature, prajna wisdom, reality state, non-dual perfect interfusion, all refer to it, and all are just simply figures of speech. When you see in the future names of this kind in Buddhist books, you'll know what these names are referring to, but actually there is no name that can be given to designate it. That's because if a name is given, there will be attachment. However, if no name is given, if no name is selected, there's no way to express the meaning. All of the names are for the purpose of using language to try to explain the teaching to living beings. And that's why these figures of speech are listed. Do you understand? And so he tells us that there is a state that we can get into. And in this state, there is nothing but pure, unbridled action. It doesn't take thought to get into it. It says, the average person does not know of the seventh or the Manas consciousness or the eighth or the Alaya consciousness. When the sixth consciousness completely stops functioning, only then will the seventh consciousness appear. So when you're thinking about what to do about this or how to handle that or what, you're in the sixth consciousness then. But when it stops functioning, that's why a lot of times the scientists and inventors and stuff, they're trying to, discover something or make something and can't get it. And then they go and lay on the couch and take a nap and then wake up, eureka, I got it, because they stopped thinking about it. And when they did, the seventh consciousness, and so that occurs a lot when one is in the midst of Dharma practice, whether you're in meditation or whether you're reading something in particular, or whether you're making supplications and offerings to to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And by the way, on Wednesday, what day is this? Sunday? Oh, can't do it Wednesday. Next Sunday then. I would like to share, my topic will be Buddhism, atheism or theism, because the work started on it a couple of days, but I'm not finished being groomed to give it. But there's one passage in particular that I want to read, and it came up because of the Theravadan conversation yesterday. And I want to give you where it is in the Majjhima Nikaya and also in the Digha Nikaya, and where they're asking the Buddha something about gods, and his disciple asked him how come he didn't teach on gods. He said, because everybody already knows that they're gods, because he came out of a region that was very much entrenched in certain kinds of experience. He said, everybody knows that. All I'm just saying is gods can't save you. They are sentient beings that are a classification of being, and they have capacities to do certain things. They can help you, they can support you at things, but in terms of having a supreme being who made all things, it's a misunderstanding. That's why I'm here, to kind of take you to the next level of understanding with that. And so I never read it before, and I thought I knew the Majjhima Nikaya front and back, not so much the Digha Nikaya, because those were the long discourses. I mean, they're almost the very same discourses, but they're 100,000 verses, or something like that, versus 30 verses. So I like the 30 verses, and Pannadipa liked the Digha Nikaya, and I liked Majjhima, middle length. He liked long. And then they have also short, but short is a little too short for me. I can't get the idea. I need more. So I like the Digha Nikaya, the Majjhima Nikaya, middle length discourses. And I have read some passages from the middle length, but I want to read this particularly because it comes from the sutras, the supposed words of the Buddha, as opposed to my words. And I think those words coming from a higher mind have greater power. So sometimes just hearing something from the right source dispels our confusion and clarifies something and creates an opening, so we know, no, we did not make a mistake. When we stepped out of something and we went further, but we're still holding to something else, because that seems to be, fixed for us, but that we're moving for a reason. And we can get stuck in that intermediate space because we know this and we don't know this. And being stuck, we can stay stuck in that intermediate space. So I would like to share this because he speaks from both sides. He speaks from the theistic side, the Buddha does, and he speaks from the atheistic, non-theistic. Oh, that's good. Well, I think I would not say non-theistic because in a sense it's theistic, but around what the reliance is, So I don't deny gods. A lot of Buddhists do, but I find them in there, I don't deny God's. What I deny is the conclusion that we have reached. So he gives us for investigation another landing spot, so that the right kind of respect, and that's really why Buddhists end up completely in their heads and never having attainment, because of a lack of connection with good friends that are not necessarily human beings. So I do want to talk about that next week. Okay, I think I'm gonna no, can I have 5 more minutes? Because I want to tie this up. Now, this is the same talk I gave last, right? Y'all know that, right? Yeah, this is, yeah, it's stated a little differently, but it's the same. It's the same. So if you think you heard a bunch of new things today, you didn't. You just heard this last week, but a different way of looking at it. And I wanted to say that in the seventh consciousness, we have a way of looking at things and seeing something and acting. But in the eighth consciousness, it's a matter of doing that's at will and with ease, being able to do whatever you please. And that means that you are acting. I'm in the seventh consciousness with this issue from yesterday, because I'm not doing as I please. I'm having to convince or remind myself of my aspirations. I'm having to look and see where I missed it, where I didn't hold the vow or didn't, so there's effort involved in this, you see. There's effort involved in this. But at the eighth consciousness, it's not merely a matter of seeing something and responding to it. Response is not active in the sense of I have to put together a response. It becomes an automatic action. So I would rather see somebody's for real than to see somebody's what they made up for me. Whatever face they made up for me, or whatever ways they act, for me. I would rather just know what it is, because that I can work with, because that's truth. And so entering the good thing about getting to or activating the eighth consciousness is that sometimes when somebody's going over something in their mind, or they're imagining, or you could say imagining is make believe, making up. You could say visualizing is sort of like running through a scenario in their mind, something like that. So sometimes with visualization, what is visualized will suddenly appear, and that's why we have images, not like that painting right there is Sarva Nivarana Vishkavam. That's just an imagined representation of Sarva. That is not Sarva. Can't say that Sarva looks exactly like that. We've just decided that this is a representation of Sarva, a symbol of Sarva. And that's a bodhisattva who bestows fearlessness. And so that's my Yidam practice is with Sovereign Nirvana Vishkama, one who bestows fearlessness. I might have to learn how to work with the fearlessness, better, but that's my main practice. That's so that I can uphold things, I can sustain things, I can say the hard things, I can do the difficult things, so that I can do my job. And that's why that, as opposed to maybe Kuan Yin, who hears the cries of the world and responds with compassion, that was my Yidam practice when I was working with the homeless people. And when I was, doing missions in India, that's what I needed there. I didn't need that kind of energy so much as I needed certain kinds of compassionate energy. So a Yidam practice is based on, it's very individual to a person. And so there are many different practices for arousing and tapping into particular mind states. So this practice that we do sometimes with a visualization, what was visualized will suddenly appear. And when that state appears, sometimes just you see it, but sometimes it can appear so strongly that others can see it, or others can feel it, or others can know it as well. And it could be anything. This type of state with the utilization is retrieved from the Alaya consciousness. And entering a state of supernormal powers is simply a response of that eighth consciousness, mind king. So it's not special, It's not special. It's not, I'm the chosen one when you have something like this, because it is conceived by what? Mind. It is mind conceived. But here's the thing about it. When one is able to enter into those states, they are able to be of help in a certain way. They're for helps. They're not for glory, they're for helps. And they only arise, when one is in the purity of a certain mind state. But don't think much of them. He says how you should think of it is you should think of it as it's simply an illusion. It's just a manifestation of your mind. Otherwise, your pride will take you away, because we have not uprooted, our ego. And that's why you find that very successful people, have a lot of problems, because due to the elevation of state, but they get stuck on themselves. So I'm giving these caveats almost every week, because I can really see that this is a train that we can't stop. To not go where this train is going, you got to get off. And I see ones in the Sangha. I see the arising of these things. Sometimes I'm able to see it just so that I can bear witness to it, and that I can be a good friend to kind of keep you on the track, or something like that. I mean, I do have a job, so I'm trying to do my job well, and I think I'm given helps to be able to just do my job. But it's to encourage us to approach everything that's happening, to be ready. I love that scripture that speaks of eyes haven't seen and ears haven't heard, neither has it entered your heart, the good things that are in store. And when we take up the Bodhisattva vow, you know, that we give our lives for the sake of living beings, to support living beings, to support their happiness and their overcoming capacities, then it's going to take strong abilities. That's all. It's gonna take strong abilities. But if we understand this about the sixth, the seventh, and the eighth consciousness, and about spontaneous action, not with thought nor without thought. Really think about what that means. Not with thought nor without thought. There is just pure spontaneous action, and it will change external appearances. You know, that's sort of like the power of prayer, isn't it? I mean, sometimes you just have to hear something in a different way because you've rejected something, you know. But then when you get an understanding of it, it's like, oh yeah, that's that, you know. Yeah, that's that. So I believe in the power of prayer. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm happy for that family, you know. And I'm the only one he's emailing there, maybe because I'm the only one who's giving him any money, but he sometimes he emails me, you know, he's sleeping in his car. And the family of 5, and he emailed me at 3 o'clock in the morning. Says everybody's asleep. You know, he says, "Are you up?" I said, "Yeah, I'm up." And he said, "Well, you know, I'm good. You know, I just like talking to you, running things by you. Even if you can't help me, I like just running things by you." And I got to the place all I could do to help him was run things by him, you know. But he didn't get testy like, "Well, you won't give me any more money." He said, "That's all right. I just like running things by you, you know." And we talked so until he got sleepy. And but I even asked him, "Look, is there a drug issue going on here? You know, I know both of y'all were very sick. Both of them were in the hospital, one for a month and one for something else, for infection." And I said, are you on drugs? Did you get caught up in something? Just tell me. And he said, no. He said, no. It's just had a domino effect. One thing led to another. Eviction led to, you know, sleeping in the car, led to not being able to pay my phone bill where I get calls for jobs, led to my shop being locked for non-payment, led to, that's how one thing leads to another, leads to another, leads to another in life. And sometimes just a little bit of help can turn somebody around. But I ask you, let it be spontaneous. Otherwise, it is without merit. Thank you. So we're going to end with what does go forward with us.
I will age, I will grow old, I will get sick, fall ill and cold, I will meet my final death, I will die, and I will part from all that's dear to me in this life. My actions are my only
fall ill and cold. You will meet your final death, you will die, and you will part from all that's dear to you in this life. Your actions are your only true home, and everything that you do, it's the only thing you own. Your actions are your only true home, and everything that you do, it's the only thing you own. We can't run. We can't hide from these fights. We will age, we will grow old. We will get sick, fall ill and cold. We will meet our final death, we will die, and we will part from all that's dear to us in this life. Our actions are our only true home, and everything that we do, it's the only thing we own. Our actions are our only true home, and everything that we do, it's the only thing we own. We can't run. We can't hide from these five facts of life, from these five